Welcome to HR's training. I hope everybody can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. Growth team or rest of you. Awesome. You can hear me great. Good morning and welcome to HR's training on evaluations. We are excited to be here today. It is January 28th at 10 o'clock and your weatherman says it is 44 degrees, at least where I'm sitting, 15-mile-an-hour wind out there. So glad to be inside today. We only have 1 hour with you today, so we're going to make this kind of short and sweet. Wanted to introduce myself as well as the rest of the growth team that's on the call. My name is Abel Johnson. I am here within the growth team in HR. Happy to be here with you facilitating today. And then co-facilitating with me, my colleague, Kyle Galloway. He's about 5 months here with the HR team, and we're glad to have him. He'll be co-facilitating as well. I'll let him introduce himself here in a minute. This is our 10th training across campus. So this is our final training on the performance evaluation. Kyle and I have had the great pleasure of being able to kind of do a world tour here with the university and meet different departments and colleges and do the trainings with individuals. So it's been a great pleasure to getting to know everybody a little bit more. Alongside me as well as our fearless growth team leader, Tiffany Trader, and then you also have the pleasure, actually, in this specific call, to have the rest of HR here on the call, since it is finance. Have the colleagues here with us. So with that being said, this training is going to be recorded. We like to record these trainings so that we can send them out after the session's over. So we'll record this session, capture any questions, thoughts you have, and then we'll send out an email recap with this training so that those that couldn't make it today, they have an opportunity to view it. Or if you'd like to view it later before your evaluation, you're more than welcome to watch that again. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. We're excited to be here today. So, the performance evaluation is a great time and opportunity for us to talk with our employees, get to know them a little bit more. The annual performance evaluation typically involves things such as accomplishments, understanding and talking about the goals of your employees, and then all opportunities to be able to talk about the improvements that maybe they need to strive for next year, as well as recognizing the good work that they've done. This year's been a little bit different, as many of us know, and you can tell from our slide deck title, empathy, and that's a strong word. We'll define it here a little bit more later, and how that plays a role in this year's evaluations and why we are choosing to kind of focus that on empathy a little bit. So when you think of evaluations this year, the big takeaway we want everybody to kind of keep in mind is the word flexibility. Our primary goal should be to help our employees perform their job very well, but as well as helping them develop as a person and making sure that they feel safe and valued where they work. We know as leaders that this requires a lot of commitment and investment of time and energy on our part. But as with anything in life, I would say what you put into is what you get out of it. And it's definitely our employees are definitely worth the time and commitment. We're always here to help as well. HR is always here to help in any way we can. So if you have any concerns or questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll make sure that we help you through that process. So with that being said, I'll kick it over to Kyle. Kyle, do you want to introduce yourself and then talk about some of the topics we'll cover today?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our training regarding empathy and evaluations. My name is Kyle Galloway. About 4 months in with the BSU, happy to be here and enjoying every minute of it. So with that being said, today's topics, we're going to jump in and, discuss understanding 2020 and the challenges this year has brought us. I think it's easy to say that 2020 has been either different or difficult or maybe a combination of both this year that many of us have ever experienced. We're going to touch base on that. We're going to discuss showing empathy and really what that means. But more importantly, how do we apply it to our discussion for our evaluations? We have a nice little video a little bit later on that's going to show you how to set the tone and the foundation for your performance evaluation conversation. And then we'll touch base on some HR related topics, such as leaves and furloughs a little bit later on, some things to be mindful of as we sit down and do a full evaluation on our employees. And of course, we'll leave time for you all to ask questions. Feel free to unmic or submit something in the chat, and we'll, stop and we'll get you guys all taken care of. So with that being said, let's jump into the next slide. And Abel, I'll kick it back over to you, sir.
Thanks, Kyle. So as we love to start these conversations as icebreakers, questions, get your minds going. I know it's Thursday at 10, and so you're probably had a couple of meetings already, and you're taking time to stretch those brain muscles a little bit. When you can tell from the slide that there's a bubble, this word bubble full of different words. The question I want to pose to this group, and feel free to either unmute or just throw them in the chat. We'll read them. In one word, how would you describe managing your team during this COVID-19 world that we find ourselves in this last year and continuing? How would you describe that if you could put that in one word? And I'll take a quick Zoom pause as you start throwing them in there. Rewarding, easy. Yeah, love that one. Rewarding. That's first time I've heard that one. Odd. Yeah.
Abel, are we referring to direct reports or the greater team?
Either one, but really direct reports. So those that you maybe supervise or lead. Innovative. Yeah, that's a great word. And let me know, growth team, if I missed any in the chat. I'm on my phone. So opportunity. Yeah, a privilege. Lisa, I love that one. That's a first I've heard that one. Adaptable. Yeah, so as you keep enlightening, as you keep throwing these chats in positive, I'm always amazed every time we do this session. And again, this is our last session, so Kyle and I will probably miss it a little bit and reminisce about the great conversations we've had. Every time we have had these, I've always been amazed about how many positive words have come out of this opportunity. And I'm sure Kyle can agree, but when we think about bigger tragedies in our life and that we've seen in our lifetime, whether it's 9/11 or Katrina or anything in life, it's always hard and difficult. But I always sense that when we come out of that, we always look back and see that was a growing opportunity. And a lot of positive things have come out of that. So for example, a lot of you are throwing these positive words in, and feel free to unmic and share a little bit more as to why you chose it if you feel so. But an example would be, maybe you've learned as a leader that you've got some growing of your own to do as a leader. Maybe you've learned that your style, you're by nature, you're an introvert, or it was easier to walk down the hall and talk with your colleagues or your team and give praise. So, but now you've learned, I got to figure out a different way to do that. For me, maybe it's been a struggle to figure out how to engage my own team. So in those opportunities, we've learned to grow ourselves in our own leadership. Anyway, we thought that would just be a great exercise. Any thoughts or questions? Anything anybody would like to share about some of those words that they've chosen and how their own experience ties to that? Multitaskers. Yes, that was another great one.
See if I jump in and help the awkward silence out.
Yeah, please do.
Hi, my name is Josh. The word I shared was innovative. Really, at the end of the day, this was kind of a new platform for everyone, right? Yeah. Working from home, amongst other things that were going on in the world. And so being really kind of creative, but also collaborative to how you can say, be empathetic to what everyone's going through, but at the same time, be innovative how to get the goal done, right? What things are we kind of segmenting to get done today that are going to benefit us for our end goal, but at the same time, being aware that there are things going on in life,
Yeah.
How are we going to create team meeting spaces? How are we going to create that safe space to have these conversations, right? What are we going to do in terms of processes to help everyone out in case things are coming up, right? Because at the end of the day, this past year was a time of, let's say, adjustment and flexibility, so to speak, for everyone in different terms.
Yeah, Josh, I really appreciate your comment. Thanks for jumping in and filling that silence. HR, we're okay with awkward silences, so we'll wait it out. No, but I think you're right. I think there's a good balance, right? Between we still need to get our goals done. We still need to create output, but we also need to be collaborative and we need to be innovative. And here at Boise State, we're no stranger to the word innovation, right? So I think all of us as Broncos have found ways to do that in our own team. So I appreciate your comment.
So I'll volunteer.
Yes, please.
My word was inspiring, and I felt like it just was inspiring to me that our team, we were in the middle of prepping for audit or interim audit and stuff, and everybody just kind of had to, within a week, go home and just revamp their whole work lifestyle. And I think our team just really stepped up to the task, and we kind of continued on and didn't really lose a beat. We had some hiccups, of course, some bumps in the road, but for the most part, everybody just went with the flow, was still all very productive, and it wasn't really too bad for us.
Yeah, I love that example. Thank you, Sue, for sharing. And we'll talk a little bit about this later on in the conversation regarding evaluations, where we give employees credit for their adaptability, right? For making that leap from the rock to the lily pad, and in the midst of all this going on. And it sounds like your team has done that flawlessly. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Keep them coming. We'll get through some of this, and we'll create some space at the end for more comments. Kyle, tell us a little bit about how we got to 2020, set the stage for us, and then let's jump into some of the empathy and how we do that when we're regarding the conversation around evaluation.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that 2020 has been an unprecedented year for us all. As a university, we've had drastic changes with quickly transitioning some jobs and or services to a virtual setting. We've adapted to the work environment to provide social distancing for roles that can't be performed virtually. And we're supporting employees through unexpected challenges that they are facing at home, such as virtual school for their kids or COVID-related 19 concerns or diagnosis, and among many more things. Currently over 80 million people worldwide have been affected with COVID-19. So, when you think about what's been challenging for you as a leader, those same challenges or worries or concerns are also being faced by your employees or staff members. Our lives have changed along with our work. A lot of social gatherings have been limited. And I'll explain a little bit later on, how this can affect someone's work. So here are a couple of things to think about prior to your evaluation, when you have that discussion. First, does your employee know what's expected of them? Have you set those clear expectations for your employee? With a lot of us working in some kind of remote setting or modified schedule, it can be difficult to have metrics on an employee or staff member if you never had that conversation regarding performance expectations, especially post-COVID, since we have been home. So some of your employees or staff members have never even left the campus because they may be essential. So is it possible that they have faced similar challenges or concerns or worries that are also being faced by those that are in the home schedule? And I think the question is probably yes. Maybe walk-in traffic's been a little bit down. It's decreased. Maybe people on campus are changing cleaning patterns. Operations has never left, so they have to adapt to, they have to really pivot about how they're now cleaning our facilities. They've done a great job at that. So things have changed. So because this year has been, so different and difficult across campus, we truly believe that empathy should play a piece of the pie in regards to evaluations. And, really that's kind of the meat of our presentation today. And we're going to discuss that here on the next slide. So Abe, I'm going to kick it back over to you to really, hone in on what empathy is and, truly, how to think about how to apply it as we go through evaluations this year.
Yeah. So while we were creating the content for this, I wanted to define empathy, but I wanted to go deep. So, we can pull out the Google and see what Webster defines it as, which is empathy is understanding the feelings of another. But, in some of my research and some of the podcasts I listen to, I found a different definition I want to pose to you all today. And I hope that it's meaningful as it is for me. There's a quote by one of the great minds of our dispensation, which, in my own opinion, some of you may argue, his name's Simon Sinek. I'm sure many of you heard him. He's got a great TED talk around empathy. And we will throw it in the chat box so that you can refer to it later, as well as in the email recap. We'll put it in there. But he defines empathy as the following. He says, empathy is being concerned about the human being and not just their output. So I thought that was very insightful. I never really thought of it in that way, but I think it ties nicely into our message of evaluations. And so let's talk about that a little bit more. We know, just as what Josh said, we are all here to produce output, right? We're here to contribute to a mission or a goal of our university, our department. And those are valid reasons, right, to be here. But we are going into a different age, and COVID-19, I think, has sped this process up, where we really are need to be concerned about the human being, right, on the holistic playing field. How are they doing mentally? How are they doing physically? How are they feeling? What are those barriers? Because those things in all reality affect their output, right? And we'll talk a little bit about some of those perspectives and lens and give you some real life examples here in a minute. So empathy is about, leadership is about empathy. It's about having the ability to relate to and connect with people to help inspire them and empower their lives. So what's great is all of you on this call are great leaders. And we use leaders versus managers because there is a difference. And so we like the word leaders. You're in a position to really understand your employees' needs and fears and struggles and wants. In our COVID-19 world, you probably even know their pets' names, what kind of posters they like on their wall. So we've gotten to know a little bit more about people on the human level. Because it's been such a rough year and different year, as leaders, our tone and our approach should be one of compassion and kindness this year. Using language that truly shows that you understand their concerns as to why a project didn't get done on time, maybe, or why it was delayed, and have those delays or unfinished work, are those due to COVID-19 concerns? Were there things that are out of their control that affected their output to not be able to get that goal? So these are things that we should be thinking about. And so now the question becomes, well, how do we do that, right? How do we take, HR, you're saying some great things. How do I take that and actually apply it where the rubber meets the road? And the biggest answer to that, and we'll pound this into the conversation throughout this morning, but the question is how often do you check in with your employees? How do you get to know their struggles? You do that through conversation and dialogue, right? Through building trust. And so the question is, do you check in with them regularly? Do you understand their struggles? Do you understand what if they have some kind of support or needs or tools to do their job or perform their job? And so we'll jump into this a little bit more. Before I do so, I'd like to use an example that I've used several times on this call from other trainings, but I'm sure Kyle's sick of hearing it, but it's very true. We just had Christmas a couple months ago, and I, in the midst of creating this content, doing these trainings and doing this little tour around campus during our Christmas break, I related it to Christmas, where my kids never know if they've been good or bad until Christmas morning, right? So they don't know what list they're on until the day of. And I thought about that a little bit more. I thought, the evaluation is similar. If we wait until March 1st or February 15th or whatever you have that conversation to let your employees know where they stand, it's kind of like not knowing what's going to happen until Christmas morning, right? Mm-hmm. And so giving them opportunities to have that dialogue, to provide feedback, to provide recognition throughout the year on an ongoing basis is a better system in terms of performance evaluations, performance management, and just building your trust and your transparency with your employee. And so again, for me, I kind of walked away from that, and Kyle and I have joked, I need to be checking in with my kids, more often throughout the year so that they know they should not be surprised when it comes Christmas, what they've been, if they've been on the good list or the naughty list. So I hope that analogy helps a little bit here. Kyle, do you want to talk a little bit about how we take the empathy, what we're talking about, and how do we apply it into actual conversations that our employees and our supervisors can have?
Yes, absolutely. This is probably one of the more important pieces to really, hone in on the idea of applying empathy in the conversation. So what does a conversation sound like? I'm going to go ahead and play a video for you all. 7 tips for conducting the better performance review conversation. It's about 3 minutes long, but it gives you guys great insight and really how to hone in on the tone and structure to ensure that, when you have a conversation, it's successful. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and we'll recap here in about 3 minutes.
Conducting the performance review conversation can be challenging, both for you as a leader as well as for the employee. The employee may be concerned that they're going to be sitting in the hot seat and get judged. They might also worry about how the performance appraisal could affect the potential for them to get a raise. You might be concerned that your feedback can cause them to get emotional or defensive or even argumentative. That's why it's really helpful to have a plan in place when going into this conversation. So I'm going to share with you 7 tips to confidently have the performance review conversation. Tip number 1, don't ad lib. Use the forms that have been provided by your company for the performance review conversation. Number 2, make sure your employee gets to prepare the exact same forms so that you can be on the same page and there's no surprises for them. You don't want them to be frustrated when suddenly they feel like they're being judged for something that they just weren't expecting. Number 3, don't just dive in and get to business. Build some rapport. Set the tone by asking them how their week went. Thank them for showing up to the meeting and maybe discuss something like how their family is doing or any vacation plans they might have. Number 4, before you give your feedback, first allow them in each category to tell you how they felt their performance was in the past year. Tell them where you agreed with their performance opinions, and then tell them where you may have differed. This is an important phrase. Instead of saying disagree or allowing room for any kind of argument, just say, I appreciate your feedback on that. I would agree you did a great job with X, Y, and Z. Where my opinion differs a bit is, and then give the example. Number 6, when giving feedback, make sure you'll use only observable facts, not assumptive judgments. You don't want to say something like, Mike, it really seems like you've checked out and you don't even care anymore this past quarter. Instead, say something like, I've noticed you've been tardy 3 times out of the last 4 weeks. And in most of the meetings in the last 2 weeks, you've really only participated once. What can you tell me about this? This gives them an opportunity to share their side and really explain what might be going on with them. Which leads us to number 7. They may become defensive or argumentative. If so, as challenging as it may be, allow them the time to vent and listen to what they have to say. No need to prescribe an answer, just listen, and if necessary, ask them to share a little bit more.
What a great video. We truly believe that this video, explains the importance of your tone when you are having those discussions with your employees. Again, some things to remember are, and an important piece of it is ensuring that you have a plan in place before you have your discussion. Come prepared. We're not ad-libbing. We're building rapport. Again, that's a foundation of making sure that we have relationships with our fellow employees. And in the HR world, we are only using facts. I like to call it a paper trail, right? When it comes to performance management, which we'll touch base on here in a little bit, but only coming with information that can be used regarding performance is as factual. Excuse me. So some other examples or suggestions you can use prior to your conversation with your employees. We like these phrases because they truly show empathy. Thank you for your contributions during this difficult time. I've appreciated how well you've adjusted. We know this year's been difficult. So, here's some things that went well, or here's some things that we could work on as we, move forward. Your tone and approach, really does have the ability to turn any situation into a positive outcome. And, for that, performance management is going to be another huge piece, and how to apply empathy to it will be crucial as we go along and go through our evaluations as well. So for that, Abel, I'll kick it back over to you for the performance management. But Abel, I think we want to put a caveat on the not having a pass. You want to go ahead and discuss that for a quick second?
For not having a what?
The a hall pass. We're not telling anybody to. I think you missed that piece.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for bringing that up. One of the things, we want to make sure that we're inserting here is that empathy. We're not saying in HR that empathy necessarily means that we're giving our employees a hall pass for 2020. But what we are saying is we want to be mindful of the struggles that they have faced or may have faced during the pandemic, and the work and their output and how that's been affected possibly by COVID or things outside of their control. So that is very, very true. Thanks for reminding me, Kyle. So we're not saying in HR, just give everybody a certain number or score, just push it through and call it good. We're not saying that, but we are saying just put on those different lenses when it comes to the evaluation and understanding the struggles and the shortcomings and how those may have affected the employees out, but because of COVID-19 or working remotely or internet or whatever it may be. So yeah, I appreciate you reminding me about that. Any thoughts, comments about anything that we've said so far? I'll pause real quick while we get some feedback or comments, and we'll watch the chat for a second. All right, we'll jump into the next slide. When you look at this, this illustration, it's a great, it conveys what some of the performance evaluations or the performance management tips that we like to use here in HR and we provide training on, which is some of the things we've already nailed on, right? So meeting regularly, having those check-ins, making sure you're discussing your goals and setting new goals, understanding what the employee may be going through, making sure you're documenting that. And we have lots of other great tools here in HR that we've used for years. And some of the individuals in HR here on the call that probably could speak to that a little bit more, which those tools may be an IDP plan, which is an individual development plan for those that want to develop professionally and maybe want to set certain goals to accomplish with their supervisor. So we have these other tools, and an evaluation is one of those tools to help the performance management and relationship with your employees. So goals are still important, right? They matter, but they do need to be adapted to current circumstances. And so, take the time to think about your own team's goals. Again, do your employees know what's expected of them? Do they have the tools to perform their job and to meet those goals, to make it a reality? And so right now, we wanted to quickly pause and get some of your feedback and get a pulse check, because many of you are doing this already, or maybe you have great ideas you'd like to share with the group. So the question is this: how do you measure the performance of your own team or your employees, or how have you been doing that in this pandemic? Is there a certain way or a method that you've been using that seems to be working for you? Or is there something you've tried that doesn't work and you're like, hey, that didn't work for me? So we'd love to have you unmute and discuss that, or shout them out or throw them in the chat. We'll read them out. And as my friend Casey Park would say, we're okay with Zoom pauses. So we'll give you a few seconds. I got some HR colleagues on the call. We might pick on them too.
Hi, Abel.
Yes.
So as far as I feel our team has really stayed connected, even though we've kind of all been working remotely. Some of us are getting back into the office a little bit more, but I try to have a weekly, just half hour, sometimes, depending on how much we have going on, it may be an hour, but most it's once a week for a half hour to get the group together, just kind of touch base. And then I have one-on-ones with them for about a half hour once a month. And then of course, we're in several of the same meetings together and we always can chat with each other. So I do feel like it's just, of course, I have a smaller group of on my team. I don't know how that would work as far as trying to keep in touch on a daily basis with everybody, but we have a chat for our entire group that we just kind of keep each other informed on what's going on and seeing how each other's doing. So
yeah, I love that. Thanks, Camille, for sharing. Camille pointed out a couple of things which I think are important. It's going to probably vary from leader to leader and team to team, because some of us manage lots of people, right? We have lots of people in our group, and so that may be difficult to have a half hour, an hour chat a week if you've got 8 people that report to you. But Camille also mentioned something that's efficient but still effective, I think, and that's little things like she has a group chat right on her Google Hangouts for her team, and I know the growth team does that too. So we'll always check in and say, we like to break the ice in the mornings. How was your weekend? Or name one good thing that you've done good this that is exciting that you're hoping to do today, or something a win from yesterday. So again, those are small ways of just connecting with your team, and she did a great job of conveying that. Thanks, Camille. Appreciate that example. I think there's a hand. Is that Valerie?
Yes. Hi, Abel. I want to let you know I have a half hour standout daily with my team, Monday through Thursday. Friday, they have a virtual get together. I'm sometimes on it, sometimes not, because it gives them a chance to not talk about work. But I will let you
Yes.
know that I was told by a new person that I onboarded, it allowed them that opportunity to get to know the team, because we
Yeah.
check in every morning. We each talk about what's going on, any questions being answered, any new things that are coming, and engage with each other on how to make that better. But it's kept my team connected. It's kept my team informed, and it lets us know who's having challenges so that we can pick it up in other areas, so we can ebb and flow with it.
I love that, Valerie. And I might ask a follow-up question. I love that you do that. And so can you kind of share with the group, you said you talk sometimes non-work related. Is there an icebreaker? Do you have a fun question, a joke? What do you kind of do to kind of build that camaraderie a little bit?
I can't speak to that because, like I said, I'm not there all the time, but I know it's called the virtual group chat, and they I allow them to shut off the phones so that they've got an hour on Fridays to just connect about their favorite movies, about what's the newest binge watching thing, what they're going to be doing for the weekend, how their kids are doing. I mean, it goes pets, it goes in a million different directions.
I love that, and I think that's going back to we're in a different setting right now, right? We can't walk down the hall. We can't have those discussions. We can't go out to lunch. So these are other ways of connecting with your employees and engaging with them. And again, some of the greatest leaders in my life and mentors, they've cared about me first as a person, and then the professional and the output and the work. And for me, that's made me want to work harder and want to be loyal and provide that meaningful output, because I know they care about me. So we're talking again about the holistic person, right? How do we value our employees? How do we how do we get them engaged? And again, I think it starts with the person, right? And Simon said it best, right? The person first and not just the output. So I appreciate that, you sharing that, Valerie. Any other thoughts, hands that I missed? Growth team, keep me honest if I missed a chat or anything. Okay. The last thing I want to mention before we move on to the next bit, which is my favorite slide of the whole presentation. It's probably the most HR inappropriate slide. So Mark, Heil, just cover your eyes or mute yourself or turn off your camera. But one of the things we mentioned earlier, give your employees credit for adaptability this year, right? It's not on the evaluation. It's nowhere written. But man, I'm telling you what, they have jumped on that ship, and some of them are holding on by their fingernails, and some of them are holding on to the dock or the ship while those waves are coming, those waves of change and COVID-19 and being tested and all these things, but they're still there, right? So I don't think we give sometimes credit for our employees for just their ability to adapt to the situation, to pivot and still be there and be a good team player. So again, that's one of the things I wanted to point out this year, though, even though it's not on the evaluation, I just want to put that out there as something to think about, another lens to think about when you talk about your output of your employees and what they've done this year.
Hey, Abel,
Did I miss anything?
I think that really is important. And whether you think about it as adaptability of, being able to dodge some of the curveballs that have been thrown at us over the last 10, 11 months, but it's also resiliency. So there's been a lot of ups and there's been a lot of downs. I know we've all been through it. I'll admit I've been through it as well. Some days are harder than others. And as leaders especially, you've got to figure out a way to kind of pull yourself up, be positive, and help lead the organization going forward. And that's been tough. And I think as a group, a leadership team, I think all you guys have done a great job in being that resilient leader. And I recognize it really has been difficult. So good job, everybody. Appreciate all your efforts there.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that comment, because that was something that we thought was important to put in the presentation, because it's not really a metric and it's not on the form, but it is important. And I think more than ever this year with the changes that we've been through. So thanks for that comment. Kyle, did I miss anything, or are we ready to roll? Did we miss any comments, chats coming in?
I think you hit it, Abel. Great job.
Awesome. Well, let's lead into the next slide. Again, it's my favorite slide. So we'll let you watch the short clip, and then we'll talk about why we're even showing it to you.
Look at the cute dog.
Okay, so I don't know if anybody. My favorite part of this is showing this and then scrolling through and looking at the faces and the smiles that cracked. AmeriQuest is this company. I think they were in the 90s, and they used to put out these commercials, these little ads, and their slogan was always, "Don't judge too quickly, we won't." And so, why is this in here? A couple of reasons. I think it ties nicely with the empathy theme that we're going with, where from one perspective, whether you're a leader, a colleague, a member of a team, from one perspective, looking inward to another colleague or situation, something may seem wrong or something may seem weird, or you may jump to conclusions. But from the employee's perspective, they may not think anything's wrong, right? That guy was just trying to eat a brownie, right? So from a different perspective, something looked and felt wrong. So the overall theme here is the empathy, right? We don't know, and that's just the point. We don't know what people are going through, and we don't know the challenges they're facing at home, working remote, being a parent, all these things. And so as we go through this evaluation period of evaluating the output of our employees, keeping in mind that we don't judge too quickly, and the perspective. And we'll talk a little bit more about that with the iceberg effect that we'll show you an image of, and how that ties into what's below the ice. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Kyle, do you want to take us into the things to be mindful of as we talk about lens and perspective?
Absolutely. This year in HR, we want to use the word harmless. What does that mean? Anything that is out of an employee's control should not be used against them during the evaluation period. So what does that look like from an HR standpoint? Few things. There's a new law that was out, that came out last April, FFCRA, Families First Coronavirus Act, that a lot of our employees used, that took them away from the office to take care of COVID-related 19 issues with themselves or with family members. We have people that were on FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. We've had people that have been on ADA leave, American with Disabilities Act. We've also had our peers on furloughs, right? So when you think about, HR approved leaves that were out of an employee's control for a block of time, or whether that be intermittent or not. We want to make sure as leaders, you guys understand that those particular times that they're away from work should not be used against them during the evaluation period. Also, think about the daycare and school closures, especially early on during the pandemic. Kids were told, on a Monday, you have to go home. So what does that mean? Our parents have to immediately drop everything at work and go pick them up. So there've been a lot of adjusting and pivoting for the last, 10 or 11 months. So think about that. A lot of the stuff has been out of our control, right? Using Zoom has been, new for me coming from Ada County. It took me 2 weeks to figure out how to actually start a Zoom meeting. Internet connection has been boggled down. So I'm using a hotspot, on my cell phone just to ensure that we're not going to drop our call today. So these are different type of things that we're not used to doing, right? But a lot of the stuff is out of our control. My kids were on, their laptops for their online schooling. My wife's working in the other room. So my internet speed has been boggled down. So I didn't know that I needed to call my internet provider to get an upload speed increase to ensure that, our connectivity is in a better situation. So these are things that, from the outside, if somebody's dropping calls or they're, on mute a lot, or, they are not showing their face, doesn't mean that they're not paying attention, right? So just think about those things as you do your evaluations. Again, I'll use the example. My kids have been home for the last few months. Noon, I'm cooking lunch, and we have our new Zoom meetings in HR. So, my video is not being played, but, I'm listening and I'm paying attention, but I'm also taking care of business with my family to ensure that they have what they need. again, different than what it was last year. So be mindful of those type of inquiries as you think about holistically what's been going on with your team. Many of us are wearing different hats. And like we said, earlier, a lot of the stuff has been out of our control. So when we think about the perception versus reality piece that Abel, hit it right home for us on, just be really mindful of what those perceptions looks like. And Abel, do you want to touch base? I know you touched on the iceberg effect a little bit earlier, but to kind of hone us in on why we have this on the particular slide as well.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, my family and I were watching. We've gone through, seems like everything on Netflix and Hulu and every other thing. So we're trying to circle through different things to watch. And Shrek was on Hulu or something, and so my kids watched Shrek for the first time, and that whole sentence and joke about ogres are like onions, they have layers. Humans are like onions, we have layers, right? So as people in this iceberg image, we've got different layers. And what's great is we've had an opportunity this last almost year to see a lot of more of people on a personal level, right? We talked about this earlier where, you may see that, that Jordy has an AC/DC poster in the background. He loves AC/DC. Or, I got to learn more about my colleagues and their likes and dislikes just from the background or their family walking in, right? Their kids. We got to meet some kids. We got to meet some dogs, some birds, some cats, pets. So it's been a great year. But some of those things in the iceberg, right? If we were at work, we wouldn't have seen what's under the surface regarding lifestyle, people's behaviors, their interaction with their children. Casey is a great example, a great member of our team. And she, she's a mom and she's got a couple kids she's trying to get through school with, and we get to see that side of her, right? So that iceberg is we get to see more of people, but there's lots of different layers to people regarding their lifestyle, the behavior, their psychological, motivational level. And so all these things over this year that we've worked at home, some of those things may have been agitated, and some of that stuff we have seen and it's come up to the surface. And as leaders, we just want to make sure that, again, we're evaluating people based on their work and output, but with the lens of, you may see some behavioral or some lifestyle because of just the nature of where we're working, right, from home. And so that's just something to be mindful of. There was another great quote that says, empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. And so, again, I think that just hones in the empathy. But again, it's fun. We get to see more people, but making sure that we tie that nicely and professionally into, their output and their performance evaluations here. So, let you in on a secret. HR, we don't know everything. I'm sure some of you already knew that. But what we do know is we do know some people who know a lot. And so it's been our great pleasure this year to be able to partner with this next guest speaker. I'll let Kyle introduce him, who's a great man, but also great in his field. And so we've been able to partner with him, and we're going to share a quick clip. But Kyle, do you want to introduce our guest speaker?
Absolutely. Matt Neese is no stranger to the campus community. He's an expert on empathy and mental, health and wellness, and really has been a great resource for us in HR during the pandemic. So we were lucky to have his partnership as we discuss empathy. And what you guys will get here is an empathy perspective from a true expert in this field. And we have a nice 3-minute clip for you that we'll show you. We'll also have the full video for you when we do our recap email. But I'm going to go ahead and play it for you, and we'll recap here in a second.
When it comes to applying my knowledge of empathy, there's a really great framework that helps me keep in check. On one end of the spectrum, there's what we call cognitive empathy. This is when I understand cognitively what's going on for another person emotionally, but I don't have my own emotional connection to that experience, and therefore don't care enough to do anything about this understanding. On the other end of the spectrum, there's emotional empathy. This is when I'm connecting so much emotionally with my perception of what the other person is feeling that I lose myself in a moment. I become flooded with my own emotions in an attempt to align with the other person, that I'm unable to be helpful in that situation. And then in the middle, there's what we call compassionate empathy. which, as you might expect, is a healthy blend between the first two. Based on my working knowledge of this person's life, when I'm feeling compassionate empathy, I have enough information to infer what they are likely experiencing. I have enough emotional connection to this person and their circumstances to have the desire to help. And because I'm staying grounded in my own identity, I'm able to be moved by this experience and the ability to compassionately or empathically support this person.
Yeah, what a great message from Matt and Neese. And again, we'll have the full video for you all when we send out our recap email. But again, like Abel said earlier, in HR, we're not the experts, but we are experts at building relationships and partnering with those that are the true experts to ensure that you guys get the right message. It is not just coming from an HR office. So grand kudos to Matt and Neese for helping us out with that. And another piece of our empathy theme is really understanding, real life struggles during this pandemic, especially, according to the CDC, the COVID-19 pandemic has been stressful for a lot of people. Fear and anxiety about a new disease and what could, happen can be really overwhelming and cause strong emotions in adults and in children. Public health actions such as social distancing can make people feel isolated and lonely and can increase stress and anxiety. Ultimately, this can affect work. We had a young lady a couple sessions ago who has been home since March. She had not married, no kids, no pets. So she told us that she's really, really lonely during this time. And, her outlet is, really related to her team when they're doing their chat. So, these are real life scenarios that are going on campus wide. Stress during an infectious disease outbreak can really cause a lot of issues and, chronic health problems or difficulty sleeping or concentrating. Mental health conditions can worsen. So there are a lot of things that are going on that we may not see unless we truly understand the needs of our people, right? Abel, do you want to touch base on, I know you've had some eating pattern changes. You said your pants weren't fading or something like that. You want to touch base on that?
Yeah, that's a secret. It's interesting. I never planned to work from home, so I don't have a lot of extra bedrooms in my home for a dedicated office. So a lot of times if you're on chat with me or video, you'll see my 3-year-old throwing underwear at my head or thinking it's funny. And, I'm playing referee between two boys wrestling in the background. But the other thing to keep in mind, I'm in my master bedroom. I have a desk, obviously, but my bed is not that far away. So for me, mentally, sometimes it's hard for me to turn off my switch of I'm done working for the day and I'm home for the day. So again, making sure that can cause different working hours, right? Some of us are probably working more than we probably ever have just because we're home, right? It's easy to just walk away or come back and check an email at 9 o'clock or something. So some of those patterns have changed, right? Our working patterns, our eating patterns, our sleeping patterns. Let's be honest, the fridge is only a few steps away. A lot of us are probably getting up and snacking. I know for me, I just try to get up and go check the mailbox and give the mailman a Mountain Dew or something just to have a conversation sometimes. So all of these are examples, right, of how these things have affected an employee or can affect an employee and how that can affect their output, right, or the quality of their output. So sleeping patterns, eating patterns, all of these, the health comes into play here. I think that's what we're trying to nail down. So now we've got 10 minutes. This is the end of our presentation. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what your thoughts are. Is anything we're saying, ringing a bell, or does it feel like it's hitting home? Anything you'd like to share or any comments? We'd love to hear from you at this time. Valerie, yes.
Just going to say thank you. I think it's critically important that we bring mental health issues to the forefront and how we're dealing with our employees and the needs that are out there for our community. Because as you said, and I want to reiterate, everybody's got stuff. So whatever you're feeling or kind of dealing with, understand there are a whole group of people that are also dealing with those different things in different ways and more or less. So it's just super important that we talk about it, yes. Check in with people, let them know that you're there and that they are not out there on an island by themselves. So thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You bring up a great point. Thank you.
And also with our recap, we have a link to our EAP page. So, as a leader, we believe it's important to have those resources for your team. So when we send that out, be on the lookout for that. But we want to make sure you guys have the tools, resources to ensure that your people can do their job properly and efficiently. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll stay on for the next 9 minutes of the call for those that want to stick around and have some more questions. For those that need to jump off, I just want to leave you with this thought. We are very grateful in HR for the work that you are doing as leaders. The work that's seen and unseen. We know that it takes a lot of work, and it seems like it's been a heavier lift going remote and interacting with your team in a different way. So we appreciate your work, and we want to convey our gratitude and recognize the things that you're doing. As my grandpa used to say, lift where you stand. And I think, as we gather around this thing called COVID-19, these barriers, at the time I was lifting a piano. So as you grab an end and lift 2 inches up, it makes a difference as a university and as a unit. So we appreciate the work you're doing, and we want to just thank you. We'll stick around for the next 8 minutes for those that want to ask some questions. We have some extra trainings on how to complete the evaluation form. That's on our website. It is a e-learning module. You can take at your own pace. It tells you how to fill out the form if it's been a while and you need a refresher. And then if you have any other additional questions, HR is here for you. So we appreciate your time.